independence and the way in which we help the older elementary school students get ready for sort of being capable of making decisions for themselves and connecting with classmates and also others that have similar interests. So years ago, when I started researching safety around unstructured time, it was a big topic about 15 years ago. Many of you probably weren't yet parenting yet, where the term bullying really came into schools in terms of how they were going to be managing expectations around that. And so as I like to look at things in terms of young children, we have to understand that it's our responsibility first to make sure they have the framework to know what to do versus just punishing them for doing the wrong thing, because you really don't internalize things that way. And so my journey was sort of thinking about children and how to support them so that they could grow into who they needed to be and understand how to develop healthy relationships in all areas of life, including unstructured time like recess and downtime with friends, because that's usually where we find children the least successful in school, because there can be relational aggression at that time. There can be all kinds of things going on. So I started studying Peaceable Playground. That was part of sort of the conversation that was happening with educators that were like-minded like myself. How do we create spaces outdoors, particularly for children who have challenges with unstructured time, joining a game, getting involved in something. And what we found was through the journey with that, I think, Melanie, you were still here when you were just starting when Kurt Hansen came to school. I had several different speakers come and share ideas about what you can do and how you can empower your children. But part of that was PE in public schools was being cut. So a lot of the PE teachers took on this role at recess time, sort of organizing games and teaching how to jump rope and how to play foursquare and those kinds of things. And so a lot of schools outside independent schools adopted something called Peaceable Playgrounds, and that's really trying to teach children games, because many of them come without those sort of games that we played as children, Mother May I and all of those kinds of things. So structured recess, which you'll see up here, is sort of our take on that, because we were finding that although our third and fourth graders wanted to play organized games, they didn't have the skill set to negotiate rules and expectations and levels of success in their physicality yet. Particularly, I want to say around some of our girls wanting to join those games and being maybe the only one up there on the turf field, and some of our other students who identify as boys not feeling like they had the physical strength to compete with more of the aggressive children who had been in sports for a long time. So our idea around structured recess is to allow children, anybody who wants to play, to have a fair opportunity to play, and it to be negotiated through our PE faculty. So Ginny Smith, along with Andy Scala and Jean Love, all take time at structured recess. So that, I just wanted to clarify that, so that I think a lot of families aren't aware that that's even an offering. So during, it's for third and fourth graders, because we feel at that point they have the ability to get independently up to the field. It's an option for them. They don't have to play. And if they show up, they engage in an additional really 30 minutes of PE. It can almost be 3 or 4 times a week. And they work on negotiation skills. They work on being a good team member and things like that. So part of our programming in Little School around lunch and recess has to do with really creating that safe space for children. The other opportunity we have at that time of the day is to think about engagement. Now that's a big word, a buzzword in education. You can't really read an article in any educational piece or a parenting magazine that doesn't talk about student engagement in school. And in our mission we use the word child-centered, so that when we're thinking about what children are doing all day long in school, we're using that lens of how are we going to get them to own or author is another word, their learning. Now that's a big question. It's like the essential question of today's time in education. And what we mean by that is that when children, we know today, for our next generation of learners and leaders, that they're going to have to take what they are experiencing and do something with that, not just know it. Right? So there's a big difference between knowledge and that next iteration of entrepreneurship, or taking something and reframing it in a different way. So we're talking about problem solving. We're talking about, being in the roles that you do in your life and how you triangulate conversations and you try to understand perspective and you try to shift your own mindset. So when we talk about engagement in school, it's not that a child's sitting at a desk, the teacher's saying this and you're doing X. It's how do we get them excited about their learning, and how do we get them connected with like-minded colleagues, their peers, like-minded educators, so that they can look at what they're interested in and really excel in that. So we know our music program does that amazingly, but you might not know what some of our other faculty members do in order to create that engagement within students in other disciplines. So we decided to pilot a couple years ago some clubs for 3rd and 4th grader, and it started with Dr. Nackard opening up the Maker Lab a couple days a week where kids can come down, it's an option, and during the recess time they can make and do. And so I know this year we have a group of 4th graders who are very interested in making the wood carver. So they've been creating such incredible, beautiful artwork. And I'm glad you're here, Rourke. I know with the wood carver, part of that is programming, right? Mm-hmm. So when we talk about our programs, we're selling ourselves short because there's many opportunities as the children get older and have the capacity to be independent to take on projects and learning during those times of the day that are unstructured. So for anybody who's really interested in coding, Rourke creates the space and the idea, and then they come up with and show the interest in pursuing some kind of project. So last year we had a student in 3rd grade, or he was a 2nd grader, but he got really interested in creating a catapult, and he went through the design process for 6 months with Rourke. It went from paper, he tried different materials, till finally he got to code and use the 3D printer, and he was able to make an acrylic catapult. Now, again, it's not something that you and I can say to our child, you're going to do this every day at recess until you get it right. But the idea is, if a child really wants something, and if they really want to engage in something and learn something, we're going to set the stage for that. But how do you create the resilience and the grit and the want for a child to really stick with something that long? It took 6 months for this child to do, right? It's not, all we can do is create the space and supply the materials and the help and the coaching along the way, but it has to be something the child's motivated in. So if I asked another child who wasn't interested in maybe one of the groups, you're going to give up your recess for 6 months, every Tuesday and Thursday until you get this right. You see the difference in how you're approaching that, right? And so not only did Rourke open up his spaces, but then we started talking about what are some other interest-based things that we see that our children, our students are really passionate about. And it's not the same every year, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that, but I wanted to give you the rationale behind why we decided to give up our own personal time to create these spaces and times for children in middle school to develop passions and become experts in something and have a sense of perseverance and grit to get to experience that by not having an assessment connected to it. I'm not doing it for you, I'm not doing it for my mom and dad, I'm not doing it for my teachers, I'm not doing it because I want you to like me or I want you to think I'm the smartest. I'm doing it because it's what I want. And for children, having choice and voice in education is all about empowerment, right? So you send your children here, and that's a big reason why you send your children here, because you want them to be able to advocate for themselves, to be able to speak about things, to be able to have leadership qualities. So this is one way in which we're developing leaders, if you think about it. So again, we try to connect these big ideals we have in our mission statement with then what it looks like for children, and that's sort of what some of this programming is all about. So I do believe in, correct me if I'm wrong, in the spring we will start bringing second graders into these spaces as well to kind of give them a taste.
Second graders are already in.
Okay.
They come in from my space, so they get an exposure to the idea of that other option for the third graders. And first graders are kind of trained from like right after spring break till the end of the school year on how to be in the lab in an open-ended way, unless I have to interrupt it for lessons on how to be safe online and other little things that are important as well. But we've gotten to a great place where we go from how to use scissors in kindergarten 3s and 4s to how do you autonomously walk around this room with a lot of sophisticated, potentially dangerous equipment safely when you may walk in and the group before you left needles out. How do you identify that that's a danger area? Yeah. Because kids are still children. A fourth grader thinks that they put everything away. There may still be a sewing needle, pincushion that they didn't put back. And so a third grader walking into the space can assess the space, look around and understand, okay, these are some safety hazards, these are things that should bring to Dr. Rourke's attention, or Ms. Rawls' attention, or another adult. And then they've actually gotten really good. Almost to the point where I'm like, you know where that goes, go put it away.
Okay, so here we'll begin our journey. So when it comes to creativity, which again, we're looking at the mindset of the maker and that we, not allowing creativity to flourish in an elementary school, even though there are skills and content and things that we need to cover, but we don't want our children to lose that sense of joy and wonder about learning. So oftentimes children who love to manipulate and think about creativity in terms of producing something that's meaningful for them through art really don't get enough time in that art space. And so Ms. Smithline and Ms. Dorian meet with the 3rd and 4th graders, and they have art club. And you can see there's many ways in which we started this year in 3rd grade using the art club as an incentive for a group of students who really loved architecture but were having difficulty focusing in other areas of the curriculum. So this became something that they looked forward to, and it really helped them transfer the skills and the attitudes they were using in art club to their academics back in the classroom. So, just like art therapy is a use, we can also use art therapy as a way to, help children to engage in different ways in their classroom by relating their experiences and their feelings towards that. So as you can see, architecture and design is a big part of art club, and a lot of children really are designers as young ages. They love making purses and they love making, structures. And so connecting that to the real world experience of what a job might be in that is just a taste for them at a very young age to think about, wow, the world is a very open place. I don't necessarily have to have the same career as my mom and dad. And if I'm interested in this is something that maybe, I always said to my children, whatever is offered, in technology in high school, you're taking. I don't care if you don't want to, whether it's, using art or dabbling or drawing or coding, and now they say thank you, but sometimes you have to entice somebody to try something, and then when they see it related back to their own life, it really hooks them. And that's what these clubs are. They're really hooking children to some interesting things about learning. And Works, I've been chatting with Works since he's here. Our makerspace, the collaborative, is open a lot during the day for children to come down for a variety of uses. And one of them is this open space and this self-regulation and encouragement and develop grit by failing and continuing to come back and not giving up. So, you know, in the classroom, you can kind of, you know, say to the teacher, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. And eventually the teacher's going to give you the next step. And in the Maker Lab, that's not necessarily the case. So even with first graders, I know for Kid Town, they've been working on developing clothes for the cars that will be going through Kid Town. And so just learning how to fold something to fit a sphere has been a real challenge. And Rourke says, just get another piece of paper, just get another piece of paper, and he can walk away. And so again, it's developing that capacity within a child to feel frustrated, but not figure out how to solve something without necessarily going to the teacher first. So that's part of the design of maker spaces and maker mindsets in children. And again, they're using their skills, organizational skills, really thinking about physics, design, and all different kinds of things when they're in the maker space. And again, it's a choice. You don't have to go every day if you don't want to. You can drop in or you can stay consistently until you finish a project. So sometimes you see the same children over and over again, and sometimes it's a variety of children as well. Yeah?
Can you just talk about what options are for each grade? Because if everyone chose this, or if too many kids started choosing this, and it seems like you'd only be able to offer it during lunch, like maybe one day for each grade a week, or how does that work?
Well, it's designed for the third and fourth graders to be independent, and for first and second grade, it's very structured and scheduled.
Yeah, so
Would you all third and fourth graders get to choose it?
C and F days.
Right.
So on C and F days, one of the options, there might be structured recess, there might be regular playground, there might be the maker space, there might be, so they make choices. So if there's ends up being 20 children, Sarah Raleigh sometimes is in the space
I
with
just want
us.
to add, I think maybe from what you said, the confusion might be that the grades don't come together.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
each of those grades has recess at a different half an hour from
Right.
11:30 to 1.
Thank you.
So it's only within that grade, and if there are a lot of people I know out of makerspace, and Dr.
I have
Miller will say,
alternatives. Birthday
you know,
service to me.
he'll say, like if it's a rainy day, a lot of kids come and he'll say, okay, these are the choices. It's not an open
Right.
setup so that everybody can be there at these things.
Are they given a choice? So on a C day, for example, if a first grade class has 15 kids, do all 15 kids go, or do the kids decide, I want to go or I don't want to go?
First grade,
So
it's
first
not an
grade has
option
to
yet
show.
to be independent.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they have to go.
Yeah, well, with the first grades, I'm working on like fine motor skills, how to use tape dispensers properly, how to, like, they need a lot of skill building before they can be autonomous.
Yeah.
So it's not an option for them to choose not to be there.
But it's not at recess time either.
Right.
It's not at recess time, it's
Yeah.
during ensemble for everybody else.
So on
We
C
get
and
serenaded.
F days, they will all go to art club, and on A days, they will all go to makers.
They're all different,
So this is just third and fourth grade?
This is for
Oh.
third and fourth.
Okay.
So when your child gets to third and fourth grade,
This is
they
what-
have the independence to do this. They get tastes of this in first and second grade, but it's organized with the faculty and it's not
Part of the school.
at recess time. That's part of their school
It's
day.
part of their curriculum.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you for the asking a clarifying
Yeah.
question. I appreciate it.
And through the magic of the schedule, I get them for a half hour starting with the oldest kids and slowly working my way down to the second graders.
Yeah.
And the second graders, I'll say for the first month or two, okay, today we're only using tools from this area. And because a lot of them just left our first grade program, they want to go back to the robots that they hadn't played with for a few months. So they spend the first 2 months playing with origami paper and robots. And that's all they do. And then suddenly, right about now, they discover the sewing machine, they discover the laser cutter, and then they realize that those are long-term projects, and that evolves slowly and more naturally to the kids' individual growth.
And how often is it happening within, if it's not every week?
It's twice a cycle, so you know how our cycle
Yes,
runs.
yes.
The opportunity to be there for second, third, and fourth graders is twice a cycle. The opportunity for first graders is once a cycle, but they have a longer period of time. The other clubs are third and fourth grade specific, and some of them are alternate based on the capacity of the space to host them. But honestly, when it's a rainy day and every kid shows up at the makerspace, I have alternative rules, and I allow them to play one game that is very close to my heart, Oregon Trail.
Yeah.
It's just for some retro love.
Yeah.
And then they can do Wixie projects, and they can do but it allows for a safer space because there's not much equipment running. And they can also make friendship bracelets, other things that are much more low impact on the safety and observation area. And every once in a while I'll throw in something like, I have a game that I really love to play with kids called Space Team that requires them to share verbally with each other instructions, and they end up yelling over each other. So when I'm trying to build collaboration amongst a group, I introduce chaos so that they have to get into a place where they're going to argue so they can figure out how to negotiate that. So I introduced that at second grade. And it's not as strong this year with our second grader classes being smaller, but when there's a big class and they're all playing Space Team and they're all playing their own iterations of it, all in the room, it sounds like a math house, but when you realize what they're doing, it's quite brilliant that they're actually figuring out how to talk to each other. Sorry.
No, I appreciate it. Any other questions about the art club and makerspace? So our art club right now for fourth graders is being used to create production props for our play. This is the first year we're having a fourth grade play. So some of the children have been in the art space creating the costuming and sets and things for our play. So you'll notice that if you come to see it. Sometimes a child, we found that a lot of children who had to stay inside during the allergy seasons, there wasn't really anything to really engage them in, because often we're either in meetings at lunchtime, we have a math meeting, we have a grade level meeting, we have a literacy meeting. So teachers 3 out of the 6 days are in meetings during their lunch. So there's not always an adult to sort of engage them in a way that's more meaningful than just sitting there, and which is not something we want. So Cindy volunteered to have library recess for those children who need to stay inside, and then others who also want to be inside can opt to come into this space. So it's not just for children who can't go outside, it's a choice. And we have a variety of different board games, which we all know is great for a variety of reasons: creating collaboration, understanding fairness, learning to win in ways that are supportive to everybody, learning to lose graciously, all different kinds of things. Language skills are built around games. So there's typically, your choices during this time would be games that we have available or reading. And they can kind of float between the reading pod and the solarium, and that's, again, an open time where children can opt into it. So again, imagine your child is that one who says, I go outside and nobody plays with me, and I hate going outside, and it's the worst time of my day, which unfortunately some of us have heard in our lifetimes. And this is a way to de-stress that for a child, because they can come to this space and there's going to be somebody to play with, and they don't have to really think about it, and they don't have to be worried about recess. It's not a time of the day that's really stressful. So this really serves in a great way, and it also doesn't exclude our children with allergies from having peers to play with at that time.
And that's a choice even for a first grader, or no?
Unless
they have an allergy.
Yeah, if we find that it's like a child can't go out during seasonal and they're in first or second grade, we'd probably opt them into this, and then we would have them do, older to younger kind of things. If the kids were from those older grades would be in it. But usually Cindy will say, except for second grade, which has recess at 12:30 to 1, the rest of the school has recess either 11:30 or 12. But to give them a long reading block in the morning, that's why their lunch is off schedule. So their second graders usually have, that's why in the spring we can really start working with them a little bit, because they're not on the same rotation. So first graders have recess from 12 to 12:30. So if somebody was sitting out all the time in the lobby, I would probably say, get them down into Innovation Alley and we'll figure it out.
And by the springtime, most of those allergies are really present. We'll make time so the kid is not sitting in the lobby repeatedly. They may occasionally, just due to each of our schedules, have to spend one lunch in the lobby reading a book or doing an activity, coloring or something. but most of the time we try to find a good, healthy place for them to be engaged in doing something interesting away from schoolwork.
And oftentimes they might discover, as you can see, a series of books, or they'll actually get to have continuous conversations around books, which in school it's usually teacher guided, and in this period, if they love a certain author or a series, they usually can find like-minded people who want to talk about books, which is kind of fun too. So chorus is an option for 3rd and 4th graders. They work with Miss Faith. It meets on B-days. You've probably seen them at the concert singing, up on the risers. They love it. They absolutely love the privilege of going over and having lunch in a very social way, and then having an opportunity to, enhance their musicality, usually mostly choral. Which is, when you hit 3rd and 4th grade, you only meet once in the cycle for choral and chorus, and you meet general music, and then you have your ensemble period 4 times a week. So they have music every day, as when you hit 3rd grade, but only 1 day a week is it vocal. Any questions? Yes.
So this is the first year that you're doing a play in 4th grade.
Correct.
Is that an option or everyone participates?
Option.
Okay, and that's during lunch or not?
Yeah.
So that's this.
No, this is separate and apart. Chorus
Okay.
is not the play.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Good question.
We're nervously optimistic about the play. It's our first time doing it.
I've seen it. The kids
It's
are.
It's gonna be awesome,
Yes.
but it's also like, they're doing a lot of really hard work. And
Right.
They've given themselves a higher expectation than I think we did.
When do you fit that in then, if you want to be in the play?
Lunch.
Oh, right.
Yeah, you give up, and again, our students go out a lot. We really want our children out as much as possible in the environment for a multiple of reasons. So 3rd and 4th grade walks up the hill for PE, so 3 times a week, and that's like a 10-minute walk. I think it's from lower campus to upper campus, it's 17 flights if you were actually walking stairs. So imagine back and forth, plus PE 3 times a week. So some parents, get nervous. My child doesn't get out for recess, but there's a lot of time they can do. Let's move twice a week in the morning. We do get them out. Just walking around our buildings, we get a lot of steps. So we don't want children not, being physical and having chances to go outside. So they can choose to do that every day if that's what they want to do. So again, I mentioned structured recess. This is one of my favorite things that, in all the things that over the years that I've brought in, because I really see the need for this, and I'm so glad our PE teachers, the willingness is still there. And it's not something that I think a lot of schools offer. So to have this opportunity to get to go out, if you never played soccer, but to know I'm going to be safe and a teacher's going to guide me through it, and I'm not going to be bossed around by my peers, and I can try it, is a great opportunity, I think, for our students. And for those who have been coached and do specials, and this is their area of strength, they learn what it is to be a teammate and to be a leader on a team, because part of that is making sure that everybody has an opportunity to touch the ball, or to do, so the PE teachers really play such a significant role in that social emotional piece around physicalness, and I think it's really important that they're empowered to have time with children who are interested in sports. And once they get into 6th grade, they're on teams. You opt into being on a sports team or taking Pilates or whatever. So this is a nice chance to try soccer and to try kickball and to try, different kinds of things that they might not play outside of school. And so we've come to that musical. So if you've opted in and you tried out for the musical, everybody who wanted to be in it could either be in the course, but you could also try out for some of the leading parts. And the goal is to really get every 4th grader involved in some aspect of the play. So whether they're on the crew, they're making things in art club, or they're actually performing, it is a class experience. You know, everybody participates in it and everybody takes a role in putting it on. And the great thing about our first dip of our toe, we found this really, Emily found this great musical that sort of goes along with the storyline that they know, The Grinch. And it's about how the class wants to put on a play, and there's a few students who want to prevent it from being a reality. And so then, you know, you can imagine what ensues after that, and it's really fun, and the children are taking it very seriously. So C, D, and F days now, because of the fourth grade play, there's communication that goes on. You know where the kids are going to be, you know what we're closing, because they're either in rehearsal, they're in the makeup lab, or they're outside. I mean, they're in the art class. So, of course, then we might have to restructure some of the other options, or use those teachers who usually are in those spaces in a different way. So, again, communication is key internally, and we can thank the historian for really keeping track of a lot of this, because she always makes sure students are in a space where there's an adult, whether they're in the classroom or they're in these other spaces. Yes?
And are they auditioning for each other?
No. I don't believe that was part of the process. I think they had their own personal audition.
We auditioned just the teachers in a very, they formalized as if you're really having an audition
Okay.
by yourself, no peers there to critique or to share their feelings about how you were. They did wait in the waiting room together, and they would come out and go, oh my gosh, it's very dramatic. It was very, but it was actually, we recorded the auditions because we wanted to be able to also then help them review it later on, see how they grew. But we don't make those recordings available to anyone. Those are under lock and keys just for the participant themselves. And it was for some of them their first audition ever for anything. It's a big deal.
And for some of them, they've been auditioning for String Festival, so it wasn't that big.
I'll never forget, I had a student who's now in high school. I think he's auditing high school because he's in the Juilliard professional program as well. But when he was 5, he had a Saturday audition at Manhattan School of Music. And he came back and said, oh my, I'm thinking I don't know what I would have done at 5. He said, feedback is good, Miss Brennan. Holy cow, like this is so awesome. He has a whole different mindset about that experience than the things the anxiety-provoking things that we went through. So, and I love sharing these with you because it's who you are as parents. An 8th grader this year at one of the open houses, one of the parents asked, aren't you afraid your friends are going to take your spot at the school you want to go to? And they were like, absolutely not. We're not competitive in that way. We want everybody to be in the school that they need to be in. And so we all lift each other up. This was like an EMS 8th grader saying this, and I was blown away by that. I just thought, like, what a beautiful statement. Like, if only we could all live by that code. Wouldn't that be lovely? Anyway, so these are ways in which we grow that capacity within your children. And so we're really excited. The Grunch will be performed in April. Your students, whatever grades that they're in, they will see the play. And the reason why we decided that we needed a play this year was because of last year's end of the year middle school concert. Like, if you were here and you saw the pageantry and the, it was better than anything I've ever seen in any school, even my own daughter's productions in college, because of the nature in which this 3rd grade, they did, This Is the Greatest Show from, what movie was that?
Great Showman.
They had acrobatics, they had, pageantry, it was just amazing, and they rehearsed. And so we said, these children really want to act, they really want to perform. So we decided that we would go ahead and bring in a play. Next year, the 4th grade class may not be interested in it, and so it's not something that's a one and done or a one-off, but it really, again, we have to really see what the interest base is, because forcing kids to give up this amount of time for a certain amount of months is a big commitment, especially at 9 and 10.
A lot of my kids that love the makerspace were trying to make a decision between being there for the Grunch, because D-Days are a makerspace day, and being in my space. And eventually they came to their own negotiations and most of them chose to go to the brunch because they realized they could do 8 days and such. But it was quite, it's like, they get these hard choices. It doesn't seem like a hard choice as an adult. You're like, oh yeah, of course you're going to choose the thing that's, but choose between going and playing soccer with my friends and just getting cathartically released physically, or going and doing that project that I really wanted to create, that sign for my brother or sister. That's a huge epic choice for a small human being to make, and they keep making it every day.
Exactly.
Really cool.
Okay, so this is something our first grade parents and fourth grade parents might have already experienced because we've been running lunch bunches since January in those 2 grade levels. And as in all work-life situations, I include myself in that, sometimes you need a little reboot with a certain person or persons, or an opportunity to experience a more intimate way in which to connect with a person. And we use Lunch Bunch as a way to do that. There's no reason, unless it's evident and you sometimes parents ask us for it. You know, could you put my child and this child together, those who are aware, because they come home and they talk all the time about this child, and there seems to be a fear or a misunderstanding. And I think if they had an opportunity to have a guided social interaction, it would be really helpful, because I really like the child, but my child is really experiencing something very different in school with that student. That might be a reason. Other reasons might just be for the fact that we need a group, a cohort that can communicate. So your child might have amazing social skills, and so they're there to model and share and work and guide. And so in the past, and so I do apologize for this, in the past we've posted this grade level, and there was no reverberation or feedback from families that it made them feel uncomfortable. This year we haven't experienced that. A lot of parents were very concerned whether their child was asked to be part of a lunch bunch group. So moving forward, I'll make sure that we contact you individually and let you know that your child, we would like your child to be a part of this for these reasons, and hopefully you will opt them in. Again, it's not something where we bring up a topic. I know in a lot of schools they'll do banana splits, and it's all about children who are going through divorce or that kind of thing. That's not the goal of this. The goal of this is really just to be proactive about either working with somebody that you don't see in another class, or building a friendship in a different way, or learning about something, a social skill that maybe you excel in, so you can share that, or that this giving you the opportunity to practice that in a safe environment led by professionals would really be advantageous for you. So that's really the reason behind it. It's a good thing, but I understand that the communication around it may have been a misstep this year, which we will of course correct. So we will move into providing these. They're usually 4 to 6 weeks. I know in first grade, everybody who just experienced Lunch Bunch, 3 out of the 5 kids asked if they could do it again. They don't want to do Lunch Bunch, they love it, because it's really fun. And Ava Diamond actually is taking the kids outside and doing things not only in a, with a game board or a conversation, but she's getting them out there and showing them if you want to play, this is the language you would use, let's practice that. If you want to do this, this is what you do. What if you feel nobody's paying attention to you on the playground? How could you shift that for yourself? So those are kinds of the things that we're working on, and Barb is working with our 4th graders. A lot of things around, coming into your pre-adolescence is emotionally jarring. Right now they started their health classes, and so having a safe space with a small group to kind of talk through some of that stuff. So we sort of start them about the same time we do the health education in 4th grade, in case we're seeing that there's a need for that. And then also by the end of 4th grade, and if you have older children, I'm sure you've experienced this, we don't want to be ourselves at the end of 4th grade. We just want to be part of this big mob, we don't want to look different, we don't want to act different, we don't want to dress different, we just want to be part of the mob, and that comes with a lot of questioning of things and uncomfortability and feeling like others are looking at you all the time as you start to change. Right answer.
So just for clarification,
Yeah.
because you do the lunch bunch, every child will feel like they've been part of it?
That's the goal. That's the goal. So we'll continue to go through 1st and 4th grade first, and then if we have time, we'll start working with our 2nd and 3rd graders, unless something comes up and we feel like we really need this, at that point.
Why not, I'm just curious why you chose to structure it in a way where 6 kids are being removed from the larger group instead of having Ava dive and be with the whole group and then work with different groups and stations during that period of time?
Well, it's usually around, it's more nuanced communication, and we do that kind of communication in core. We do that weekly, usually in the large group.
That's right, yeah.
Um,
Or kind
so-
of does a similar.
Right, but there's still,
Or.
I go into the 1st grades right now and 2nd grades, and we're working on these skills, and then typically there's, just like you might need a refresh or more opportunity, but again, it also, I might be a child in another class, and for whatever reason, in a different section of a class, like, this person seems like a mystery to me, and there's a lot of conversation around this person, and so it also gives us an opportunity to connect your children with somebody who might be a friend, but for whatever reason, they're just not able to figure out how to communicate with them.
So right now, when they have recess, let's say in 1st grade, what classes, all 3 classes don't get together at recess?
They do.
Oh, all at the same time?
They
Okay,
do.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah, they do. And so this is during that lunch part of it, so they bring their lunches
Okay.
and we chat, and then they go out. They go out to play in 1st grade.
So I think what I would understand is, just in 1st grade, because my son's in 1st grade, and I've just gone through lunch bunch. Does every child in 1st grade have an opportunity during the school year to participate in lunch bunch? Is the first question. And I think the second question is, how do you decide what group of children are going to be selected to go to lunch bunch? And then how do you sort of fit in? There can't be an issue, one size fits all for all the children,
Right.
so I'm assuming they're all going to be talking about different things.
Correct.
So are we constantly looking to identify
Correct.
groups of children? How are we sure we're going to touch on every child? Do you know what I mean?
Right. Well, it's not a pure science,
Yes,
and
yes.
there are certain children where this is not an area that they need further support in. And so, for them, yes, the goal would be to have them have the experience so they feel like they're part of it, but it might not be for as long, and it might not be as frequent, like for 4 weeks, maybe for 2 weeks or something like that.
Yeah.
So I know for 1st grade, the area in which the teachers have identified for the next cycle would be, how do I calm myself and get ready for the next thing. So of course, it's an opportunity for those children who maybe you've heard from your child's teacher, so and so is always just racing to the next thing, or doesn't know how to, they have big feelings, that kind of thing. So this would be an opportunity to actually talk about strategies to use. But again, we're also going to just bring in some children who have those skills, so that it's a nice mix. That's the brilliance of not always separating children by ability grouping, even in social skills, because you do need a peer group, or you need partners that have those skills so they can model that and talk about it.
Yeah.
So the goal is always to try to get everyone through, but optimally we want to make sure we're touching points with children who really would benefit from an opportunity, even to have a voice in a small group.
Yeah, and to make sure all the children experience.
Exactly.
I just think the one thing I wanted to add to that was that if there's a group, for whatever reason, that's been identified in terms of that communication feedback, before the lunch bunch begins, because one parent might know that there's this issue going on, but other parents might not know. And so before the lunch bunch begins, it would be good to have that communication with each of the parents of the group of children to say, well, this is what we've identified. Here's the group. This is what we've identified. This is what we're going to be doing, so that they're aware. Because if the parents aren't communicating with each other, a parent might not even know their child's going to lunch.
Right, and I think the goal, and this is where these are these complex situations, because I might pull your child out, or Miss Rhoda, in a math class, right? They're not understanding, so there's 2 kids, and like this is something they need 3 days according with Mrs. Rhoda. In the beauty of the design of having lots of different adults supporting, we might pull those kids out and we're not gonna, this is my thing, I'm not gonna write a note and say so-and-so didn't da 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 da. So I guess what I'm learning as somebody who, this is just part of what I love to do and how I like to develop children, is I guess I see it as just like a math lesson. Like, I don't see it as a problem or an issue. I see it as a continuum of development. So if I can help this child develop those skills, just like I would in math and reading, and we fluidly group in middle school for those reasons. So my apologies for not
Oh no,
having the
because it's so wonderful to hear you explain it like that. Because absolutely,
Right.
you are the teaching professionals, and so we rely on you.
Right.
We know that if you're doing something in a math class or an English class, fantastic. But I think when it comes to lunch bunch, it's just it's a removal of a schedule that the children, both the ones who are going and not going, experience, and they're all like, well, why is that happening? Because it's so unique and it's.
I understand.
And also, I feel like, in a way, you probably want to know, because I understand what you're saying, but you want to be supportive and like talk to your child about it and maybe do something on your end that can continue the conversation. And if you don't know.
The flip side is if your child's pulled in there because, we'd love them to model, then you're also getting a taste of who might be in there that requires mediation or support. And then that creates a dynamic that could blow it all up. So I have to think about that, because that would be a shame.
Right.
So I love the question. I love problems, and I'm really going to dig into it. I promise you. And we will communicate from moving forward. We'll be in the group if we're going to pull you out. I'll call you.
Okay.
And I'll let you know. But I might not. I don't know, or I may say we're working on X, but it's tricky. I have to think about it.
I don't think it needs to be detailed, because I think that children can offer up the information themselves.
Well, they will.
They will, exactly.
They will. You said using your lunch bunch.
It's not an issue for reading group, right? For reading, and math too, right? Like, so math and reading, kids leave the classroom, kids stay.
Yeah, but it's not mixed with other kids that.
It is in 3rd and 4th grade.
Right. I mean, it's mixed within the 1st grade, but it's not mixed with children that
From
are.
different classes.
No, it is, but it's not mixed in the sense that like there are children that
And they
don't
might.
need extra support.
They do for reading, they do for math.
Yeah, no, you don't think do that.
You don't know whether, if you're pulled out, the kids aren't supposed to know, and therefore the parents aren't supposed to know who's accelerating and who might be behind.
Right.
We've always tried to avoid.
Especially in 2nd and 3rd grade, Mrs. Rhoda might pull out 2 kids from each class for something, or the classroom teachers for math, or so it's we do
So it happens in other areas.
Yes.
For some reason, I don't know if it's because it's new, it just feels
Well, I
like.
think emotionality and mental health are,
They are.
I think that wellness overall is, very personal. So I think it, for some people they're like, do it every day, like thank you, and others will be like, ooh, this is unusual for us, and this isn't something familiar with me, and so I completely understand.
There's an aspect of privacy as well, and whatever the issues are, and my feeling is that we need to trust the professionals who are identifying things and what they're going to do. But at the same time, as a parent, it's good to know, however high level you want to disperse the information. The children will disperse the information regardless. But as a parent, it's good to know, here's what we're doing, here's why. Only because not every parent knows, and not every parent is always aware of things that come up.
So, the structured recess time, is that a new, like initiative?
It's been around for
Because I know Robert started talking about like the structured, field game with where the,
oh, good.
yes, he did, with the,